Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I have the opportunity to work on a pretty old reel. It's not quite 100 years, but it's close to it. It's a Meisselback reel, and I had one earlier. It's a tripart. This one is the 581. This one was made in Newark, New Jersey, and that's why I got it. That's not far from where I am. And it was made prior to 1922, because in 1922, I believe it was, they moved to Ohio. They moved the whole plant there, and I'll probably say it wrong, Elvia, and it's a city that's due west of Cleveland, not far off of Lake Erie, and they moved the whole manufacturing series there. Well, why is it called the tripart? Well, because it's basically a three-part reel, and we're going to show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it, how it was made, and hopefully restore it, because right now it's very, very difficult to turn. That could be old grease or some other function. And well, taking it apart, cleaning it all up will show us what it is. These reels come apart in an interesting way. As I mentioned, three parts. This has got a kind of a serrated edge to it, and if you turn that edge, you're going to be able to back the whole side plate off. In other words, it's screwed on. Well, there we go. We have our plate. Looks to be a very dry reel, I'll say that. I guess that would count for one, the gear and handle assembly. Then we have the spool assembly. We have a click on this side. We have a gear on this side. The gear is part of the spool. And then we have the rest of the frame. So there you go, three parts. Now I believe this side can come off too. I haven't tried that. But it does have that serration to it. So we'll think maybe that it can be unscrewed if you need to unscrew it. Interesting as it is, it's a 100-year-old reel. It still has a very sharp clicker point. The inside of the reel is very clean. The spring, which is the vibration that you get with the click, is in very good condition. And the back end, well, it just needs a little oil or grease. I just put a dab of grease in there, because I know that's not what's slowing this down. On the spool side of it, you just want to check, and it appears that the spool is true. By true, I mean that all of the sides of the spool are lining up, that they're not out of whack. I'm just going to use a little bit of a steel wool here just to buff some of the grit and the like that have kind of deposited themselves on the side of the reel. Well, while I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you like the art of fishing reel repair, if you like to learn about fishing reels, if you enjoy working on them and want to learn more about how to do it, that's kind of what this channel is set up to do. It's called Second Chance because we want to give the reels a second chance, and we want to show you how to do it yourself. So if you subscribe, you'll see all kinds of reels. Today I'm working on a very old one. Tomorrow maybe the latest technology out there in the marketplace, and everything in between. Bait casters, spinners, ocean reels, you name it. Whatever comes into my shop usually gets a video, and this one is certainly unique. All right, we've already put the grease in the side there. I've greased the pinion gear. I'm just going to put that assembly right back on. Now, one of the things I'm noticing is this adjuster over here. It's a little tight. That may be causing that. We'll check in a moment. All right, well, we still have this ring, and we still have the main gear to deal with. We're going to remove the handle, which is a set screw. Earlier on, that other model has it as a nut. This one has it as a cap. Okay, so once you remove the handle and nut and the washer, you're going to have to unscrew. So I put the cap back on, and now we'll turn that towards you or counterclockwise to remove the handle set. I'll try to pull up on it. It's not going to work. Then we have a cap, and the rest is internal. So it's always a good idea to take pictures as you're removing the pieces and parts, just so that you can record the sequence that they came out in, and you know when you go to put them back in how that will work. Also, a good idea is to keep track of those pieces and parts that you take off. I do that with a parts tray, and that helps me immensely in terms of trying to figure that out. All right, well, we're back to where we were before. We have that side set up. We have our trim ring off now, and there's two screws that are holding the bridge in. Well, this is where I expect to see the issues. Yeah, it's very hard to turn this by hand. So you can imagine even with the leverage of the crank, it's kind of hard to do that, right? So I think what we have here is a case of dried grease, at least that's what I'm hoping. And to get at that dried grease, we're going to remove the 2 screws that are holding the bridge in. Now this is of course way before metric tools, not that this matters much, but if you were to try to find the replacement as a screw or as a nut or something to that effect, these are SAE threads, not metrics. Alright, we're hoping we can push that out now. And we may need just a little bit of a lever here. There we go. There's a little pin that's holding it on here, and that's what I'm trying to kind of lever up. Okay, it's being a little stubborn. I'm going to try and, there we go. Try to lever it with that utility knife. Then we should be able to try and push the rest of this through. I'm still thinking, yeah, that's the issue here. We've said that so many times. It's a lot of dried grease on the shaft because, well, quite honestly, there's not a lot more going on in here. Let's take the time to clean that up. I'm going to use penetrating oil to get through that grease. It's in the case, it's everywhere. And what happens with this over time is that the grease will dry and basically become a glue. I'm going to use a cotton swab to get into the channel there, see if we can't move most of the old greases out of there. And a good time to tell you, if you have any questions, if you leave those questions in the comments section, I do try to respond to them. And certainly doesn't have to be on this reel. I'm not sure how many folks out there have this reel. I bet you there's a few. But, you know, maybe you're working on a modern reel and something's just not working out right. I had one come in today on an Ambassador where the spool continues to spin even after the rebuild. And they were just kind of looking for some guidance. So I took my best guess. I can't tell you if I'm right or not, but I took my best guess on what the cause could be. And, well, ask those things. I'll see if my experience can't help. And if it can, I'm glad to help. If I can't, maybe it will help you to eliminate some of the problem diagnosis anyway. All right, well, I'm just kind of working down this shaft. It's a beautiful machined piece of metal here. That was one of the things that always amazes me about the old reels. They're simple, and yet they're so well designed. All right, well, all of the old greases are off of this. I want to check the teeth next. Well, the teeth are clean. I guess that's where all the grease came from to jam the rest of it. And it doesn't take much. All we have to do is reassemble now. A little bit of new grease on there. And certainly grease on the teeth of the main gear. You don't have to get grease in every tooth. You do have to get some in there to help it along. And then you want to get grease onto the shaft here. We're going to be able to tell right away if this is what the issue was, because if we put it back in, it should spin nice and easy now, which is exactly what was happening. Because of the new greases, that's what we expected. And now one more pass here, and we can see why it was a little difficult and why I need to use that utility blade to kind of get this off. The grease had seeped back here as well. Let's mop that off. Now we have a point that's going to hold the other end of the spool. Let's get that on, and we can reassemble. Make sure you line it up properly. We know that we have 2 set pins. They certainly went in a whole lot easier than they came out. And we have those 2 screws, which embarrassingly I have to say I left on my table. Because usually what happens when I leave them on my table is that the screws get knocked off somewhere. Let's go ahead and put those back in. And you'll find that there was a lot of reels like this made at the time, but these are certainly high quality reels and they're sought after. There's a lot of folks that enjoy things like good design. and you can even be taking fishing today. I'm using a screw starter now, because that other one I was just kind of flopping around with. This is, there's a brand out there called Quick Wedge. This is not a quick wedge that I know of. This is a Vaco, V-A-C-O. But the idea is that it's got a split shaft, and when you apply the pressure, it wedges in, and then that allows that to hold it. All right. You can do this two ways. You can put the cap on first, or you can put this in like that first. Mop up some of that extra grease that's on here. Let's get our trim ring. Put that back on. I'm sure this is going to work so much easier. So a lot of times, if you want to learn about a fishing reel, the best thing to do is just go buy one. There's a little cap. Take it apart and see what you can do. And if it doesn't work, call it a tuition reel. Get what you learn from it. And a lot of times you're going to find that what you learn on a reel like this is things like design, right? Here's one where they screwed the handle on so it doesn't typically just fall off. It's been screwed on. I'm holding that tight so I can tighten that down. Then we have a lock washer here. So one side of this post has a flat side to it. Make sure that you align that properly. That's probably why I was having a little bit of an issue getting it off. And then we have our screw, and then we have a chance to test this thing and see how we did. Well, let's see. Well, it's certainly turning a whole lot easier, right? It's almost this. So what I'm thinking here is that this probably needs just a little bit of an outbound adjustment, and I'm feeling like I'm ripping up my hand here, so I'm just going to back that off a little bit. And there you go. Now this is tight. I'm not sure what that element is. There you go, that loosened that right up as well. So sometimes penetrating oil will do that, and it did it here. Wow, there you go, the Meisselback. This is the 580 tripod, made in just west of Ohio. Beautiful little reel. Works both ways, of course. There is no anti-reverse, and that's kind of how you cast. It'll just be what we call the knuckle buster. It'll break backwards. There you go. And I'll bet you even the click works nicely. Oh, it wasn't much of a click, but it does work. All right, so that's how you take apart, you service, you diagnose, and you put it back together again. The Meisselback 580 tripod, made in Ohio. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you want to learn more, again, please subscribe. If you do subscribe, please use the notification button to let you know when I'm posting the new videos. To all of our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. It really is appreciated. And to everyone, enjoy the art of fishing reel repair. Have a fun time fishing. Take a friend and have a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.